Says live.
Yeah. So thanks for joining us, Jill and Amanda, here in this celebration and reading marathon for the World Book Day.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you for having me on.
Gracias a Jill por estar aquí con nosotros en esta celebración del Día Internacional del Libro en nuestro maratón de lectura. Vamos a platicar un poco con la autora y los invitamos a que nos manden sus preguntas a Me Gusta Leer para que, y también en el Facebook de la autora para que les podamos ir contestando. Mientras tanto, Jill, can you tell us a little bit about The Light We Lost, your most recent book, which will be published in Mexico in June?
Absolutely. So The Light We Lost is a love story. It's a love story that takes place over the course of 13 years. And it starts in New York City on September 11th, 2001. And it follows two people who met on that day and the way that they come in and out of each other's lives and all of the secrets and the betrayals and the love that they share throughout those next 13 years.
Okay. Bueno, yo voy a fungir un poco como traductora. Nos dice Jill que Los que perdimos es una historia de amor que engloba un lapso de 30 años sobre una pareja que se conoció el 11 de septiembre del 2011 y cómo a través de los años han estado entrando y saliendo de sus vidas.
Bueno, and how did you get inspired, or how did this story come about?
So the story, I started writing the story after I'd gone through a really, really bad breakup. The kind of like awful breakup where your heart just feels like it's been shattered into pieces. And I wasn't really sure. you know what I'm talking about. And I just wasn't really sure how to kind of exist in the world when this had happened. And the way I did was by writing stories about this woman named Lucy, who was not me. She was a different girl who was going through a different breakup, but we were kind of able to go through it together. And when I was writing these stories about her, I was able to process and think about and understand the relationship that had just ended in my life. And then after that, the book just kept going. I hadn't intended for it to be a novel, but after I started writing those stories about her, it kept spinning forward.
Okay. And did this help you in your grieving process personally, and maybe to see your relationship from another perspective? Escribir el libro te ayudó finalmente a ver tu relación desde otra perspectiva y a cerrar el círculo?
Yeah, it did. I think it just helped me kind of make sense of what had happened. It helped me make sense of kind of love and different feelings and different emotions, and made me think about what I wanted out of a relationship, what I wanted from a partner, and kind of in telling Lucy's story and in creating the different situations that she was going through, I was really able to think more about my own life.
So it was kind of therapy for you.
It was. I mean, I think that's what happens when you're a writer, right? You're writing your thoughts and you're writing your feelings, and it becomes a kind of way of dealing with life.
Okay.
Pues la historia surgió a partir de una relación en la que le rompieron el corazón a la autora, y a través de la protagonista empezó a encontrar pues maneras de lidiar con el rompimiento, y gracias a esto pudo saber qué es lo que quería ella de una relación y de una persona, y le ayudó mucho como en una especie de proceso terapéutico para poder reencontrarse a sí misma.
Okay, now we have a question from our readers on Facebook. She wants to know, Carolina wants to know which part of the book was most difficult for you to write. Carolina lo que quiere saber es cuál fue la parte más difícil para Jill de escribir en todo el libro.
Hola, Carolina. I think, I mean, there are a lot of difficult scenes. I think all of the emotional scenes were difficult to kind of get right, because I wanted the reader to be able to feel the emotion when they were reading. So I spent a lot of time trying to figure out how to balance the actions and the emotions and the thoughts and the dialogue. But I think the absolute hardest was probably the end, which I won't say what happens. I'm not gonna, but it took me a while to figure out exactly where the story should end. And I had written it where it ended earlier, where it had ended later, where it had ended differently, because I really wasn't completely sure where I wanted to leave everyone. And I'm not giving anything away to say that the final chapter is a letter, and it wasn't until I figured that piece out that I felt good about the ending. And that was very close to when it was finished. Like the ending came into place very, very far toward the end of the process.
Okay. Well, I'm going to let Amanda talk and then keep on going with the ending.
Okay.
Comenta yo que la parte más complicada de la novela fue escribir las escenas emotivas, porque quería encontrar una manera en la que las escenas fueran realistas y al mismo tiempo tuvieran un balance con la acción y con el diálogo. Pero que a pesar de que las escenas emotivas fueron complicadas, la parte más difícil fue el final, porque no sabía de qué manera quería terminar la historia. Cuenta que tuvo un final en el que terminaba todo antes, otro en el que terminaba después, pero que finalmente el final por el que se decantó fue uno en el que fue una historia, sin decir más detalles.
Okay, and since we're talking about the ending, we're getting a little bit ahead of ourselves, but I'm going to go right ahead and ask you, all the readers that have read it in English, and even here in Mexico, that have read the ending are wondering if there's going to be a second book, if Lucy's and Gabe's story is going to be continued.
So I don't have any plans for it now, but never say never. I was at my sister's house after the book came out in the US, and she said to me, so what happens next? And I said to her, nothing, because I hadn't come up with what happened next. I said, it's a story and it ends there. And she said to me, nuh-uh, that's not true. You made up the story so you could make up what happens afterward. So I did sort of make up for her what I thought happened next. And, I keep trying to decide whether it's something I should share with readers or not, because I've been going on tour across the US, but also in Europe. And people always ask me what happens next. And I usually say to them, well, what do you think happens next? And everybody has all these different ideas. So I don't know, if I write what happens next, will everybody be sad that it wasn't the thing that they thought?
Well, maybe you can do a choose your ending and include of the readers' proposals.
That'd be really funny.
Okay, and then going back a little bit in the story, we start finding out that Lucy is telling this story in a second-person point of view. She's telling the story to someone. Was that difficult for you to write? Empezamos la historia viendo que Lucy le está contando, le está narrando esto a alguien en segunda persona. Entonces, ¿esto fue difícil para ti de escribir?
I started just writing the story that way. It's how the pages just started coming out. And I think part of it was because I was trying to capture the feeling that you have when you're in a relationship with somebody that you're very close to and have been with for, a long time. And you start thinking in your head during the day, like, oh, I have to tell him this, or oh, that story is something he'd find funny, or, oh, you know, we have to plan that thing later. And you end up in a situation where you're so close to another person that they're almost part of your inner monologue.
Mm-hmm.
And that's kind of what I was trying to capture initially with that narration, the idea of someone else like almost being in your mind. And when I shared that with some writer friends of mine who I'd asked to read an early version of the book, they had, or one of them had said to me, well, you can only do that if there's a plot reason at the end for you to like make that work.
Mm-hmm.
And part of how I shaped the ending was because I wanted to find a reason for that to work that my friends would find acceptable, because I didn't want to change it. I didn't want to change the narration.
Okay, so your technique gave you your ending, sort of.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, a little bit.
Bueno, cuenta Jill que escogió narrar su historia desde una segunda persona porque está tomando un poco en cuenta cuando tú estás en una relación y empiezas a pensar las cosas que tienes que contarle a tu pareja a lo largo del día, de me ha pasado esto y se lo quiero decir. Y en algún punto de la relación, este proceso mental, este monólogo interno en el que estás hablando con tu pareja se vuelve, pues, parte de la manera en la que tú narras tu relación, ¿no? Y es un poco lo que quería hacer Jill. Habló con uno de sus amigos escritores y le estaban comentando que ella podía hacer esto siempre y cuando tuviera una razón desde el punto de vista narrativo para hacerlo. Así que dice Mitch que un poco el final le fue dado gracias a este recurso narrativo de hacerlo de segunda persona, así que la carta pues, le ha permitido cerrar todo.
Esa es la historia. Muy bien. Alan, from our readers, wants to know what what precise piece of advice would you give someone that has a broken heart? Alan quiere saber qué recomendaría Jill para alguien que tiene el corazón roto.
Yeah, lo siento, Alan. I think, you know, I think what I would say to anyone with a broken heart is that you're not alone, that there are so many people right at this very moment who are dealing with something very similar, and that reaching out to other people and sharing your sorrows and your pain with them is always, I think, helpful. And that also, you know, when I was sort of dealing with a broken heart post breakup, in addition to writing, I also decided that there were things that I wanted to do in my life that I had never done, and they were things that I didn't need a partner to do. So I started training for a triathlon, and I did it. And you know, it was the kind of thing that I never really prioritized. But it was something I wanted to do. So I would say also, you know, you're not alone, share your feelings with friends, but also think of something that you can do just that's rewarding to you, and go out there and make it happen. And time will take care of broken hearts.
Bueno, comenta Jill que para un corazón roto, lo primero que hay que tener en mente es que no estás solo, que hay personas que están pasando por situaciones similares. Así que hablar con ellas, compartirles lo que estás pensando ayuda bastante. Y que además cuando a Jill le pasó que terminó una relación y terminó con el corazón roto, le sirvió mucho pensar en cosas que ella podía disfrutar por sí misma. Así que cuenta que empezó a practicar para ser triatleta y pues buscar cosas que tú encuentres satisfactorias y que te den, pues sí, satisfacción para que puedas hacer por ti mismo ayuda bastante.
Okay, so there you go, Alan. And Fernanda wants to know, what piece of advice would you give young writers? Fernanda quiere saber qué consejo daría Jill a los jóvenes escritores.
I would say, number one, read a lot of books. I think that if you want to write, it's always good to sort of internalize what makes a story work for you and what you feel like other writers have done that is powerful, and to kind of use those writers as your unofficial mentors, as like, you know, looking at what they've done and how their stories work, and kind of pulling them apart so that you know the different pieces that you can put back together to make your story happen. And I would also say that someone once told me that having a book published is something like 20% talent and 80% dedication. So if writing and publishing is something that's important to you, really make time to sit and write. And I like try to schedule writing into my day so that if someone calls me and says, "Oh, could you have lunch on Saturday?" and I look at my calendar and it says writing time, I say, "No, I'm sorry, I can't. I'm writing, but I can meet you for coffee." So to sort of make it a priority and make sure that you have that discipline to just plow through a story and get it done.
All right.
Okay, comenta Jill que una de las maneras más importantes de ser un buen escritor es leer muchísimos libros. Y que cuando estás leyendo una novela que te está gustando a ti bastante, que empieces a un poco desmenuzar la historia para que veas qué es lo que está funcionando para ti y qué es lo que encuentras que es lo más poderoso dentro de esa historia, para que así cuando esté todo pues desmenuzado y sepas qué es lo que mejor funciona, puedas tú unirlo de nuevo en tu propia historia y pues tratar a estos autores como tus mentores no oficiales. Y también comenta Jill que es muy importante para escribir, especialmente si quieres publicar un libro, es tener 20% dedicación y 80% pues perseverancia. Así que tienes que encontrar la manera de poner el hecho de escribir, el acto de escribir en tu rutina diaria, para que si alguien te invita un día para un café, como, bueno, para comer, como ha dicho Gio, y veas que en tu agenda está, que tienes ese periodo dedicado para escribir, digas que no, y que los des después, porque tener una disciplina al momento de escribir es muy importante para el momento de poder publicar un libro.
Well, going back to the story a bit, now I want to ask you, we've been through what was the most difficult scene that you had to write, and then we want to know which was the most difficult character that you had to develop and why. And was there somebody that you just wanted to like punch in the nose?
You know, I think the balance between Darren and Gabe was what I had to work the hardest on, because I wanted them both to feel like they were good matches for Lucy in different ways. So I wanted the reader to kind of see them each as a real possibility for her, not like, oh, I definitely think she made a mistake with this or with that or the other thing. So I think it wasn't like a specific character, but it was just kind of trying to create two characters who were very different, but also could work with Lucy.
Okay.
Bueno, pregunta a Mitch que ¿cuál ha sido el personaje más complicado para escribir para Jill? Y Jill responde que más que un personaje, lo que más se le ha complicado fue que la dinámica entre los dos protagonistas masculinos fuera creíble, porque quería que ambos personajes resultaran creíbles y fueran igualmente buena opción para Lucy. Así que lo que más se le complicó fue justamente eso, que los lectores no pensaran que si se decantaba por alguno, era la opción obvia. O sea, que los dos tuvieran la misma posibilidad de quedar con Lucy, que los dos fueran buenos para ella.
Okay. And Jose wants to know, why did you decide to use September 11 as the date to start the book? José quiere saber por qué decidiste utilizar el 11 de septiembre como evento para empezar el libro.
So much like Gabe and Lucy, I was in college in New York City on September 11th, 2001. And I felt like that was a day, especially for people who were, you know, getting ready to go out and start our adult lives. it was a day that really made me and a lot of my friends kind of reevaluate what we thought we were going to do, and realize that, you know, things can happen in unexpected ways, and we're not necessarily going to be here forever. So what can we do while we're here, you know, to be happy or to make a difference or whatever. And, you know, there were friends that I was in college with at that time who on September 11th were like, I'm going to be a doctor, I'm going to be a journalist, I'm going to be a teacher, whatever it was, where they felt like this day has changed things for me. This day there's a before and after here. And I felt like for people who are the same age as Lucy and Gabe and me, living in New York at that time, it was just such a profound, a profound moment of realization, and really changed the way the individuals who were here thought, but also kind of, I think, almost the way the whole country thought. And it just seems like the place to start this novel, especially because, you know, the vulnerability you feel on a day like that, experiencing something like that, I think is what made Lucy and Gabe kind of able to connect the way they did so immediately.
Okay.
That makes sense.
Yes. and keeping on that theme, looking back, did you reach the goals you thought on that day, or did you become the person that you thought on that day you wanted to be? Le pregunto a Jill si ya haciendo un análisis del tiempo que ha pasado, ella se ha convertido en la persona que ese 11 de septiembre se propuso ser, y las cosas que ella vio para ella en el futuro.
I mean, I think I'm still trying, but one of the things that I had thought about on September 11th and shortly thereafter was the idea of working in children's publishing, which is what I do when I'm not writing books for grownups, and sort of helping the next generation open their eyes to different points of view and sharing empowering stories and stories with messages of acceptance and respect and, you know, helping other people and community. And I think that I have, you know, in the, what is it, nearly 17 years since then, worked on a lot of books, some that I've written myself and some that other people have written that I've edited, that I think do sort of do that and kind of open young readers' eyes, hopefully, to those kinds of ideas.
Okay. Comenta Jill que el 11 de septiembre fue un día que, al igual que los protagonistas, Gabe y Lucy, marcó su vida porque fue un día en el que cuando se despertaron no tenían ni idea de lo que iba a pasar, y que fue un acontecimiento que le pegó mucho pues, a Estados Unidos como nación, ¿no? Y que gran parte de la vulnerabilidad que sintieron en ese día fue lo que le permitió a los protagonistas poder conectar. Así que fue, pues, de entrada, el primer paso para que todo sucediera, ¿no? Y la respuesta de Mitch, si Jill se ha logrado convertir en la persona que quiso en ese 11 de septiembre, cuando tuvieron como cambio de paradigma a raíz de lo que sucedió, que mucha gente se empezó a preguntar qué era lo que realmente quería hacer, qué era lo que lo iba a hacer más feliz, ¿no? Y Jill responde que ha logrado bastante de las cosas que quería hacer, que se puso a sí misma como meta en ese 11 de septiembre, pero que sigue en proceso, que una de las cosas que le interesan es la publicación de libros infantiles, y que pues lo ha logrado hacer porque ha escrito algunos y otros los ha editado, porque quiere crear historias de empoderamiento y de, pues, que hagan a la nueva generación más fuerte.
And going on, I'm sorry?
Amanda makes me sound even better in her responses.
Lo intento. Yes, she's very good. I'm trying.
Okay, so on that theme, also you talk about writing books for adults. What is coming next? If there isn't a book 2 for The Light We Lost, what can we expect?
There's a new book that will hopefully, I think, be out in 2019. I don't know exactly when. Also for adults, for grown-ups, that is about a woman whose father passes away, and then she finds out all of these secrets that he'd been keeping from her whole life, and it changes the way she thinks about him and the way she thinks about herself and her childhood and her world. And there are also a couple of gentlemen in the book that she, you know, has a little something going on with.
Right.
Me pregunta Michi si por el momento no se tiene pensada una segunda parte de Los que perdimos, qué es lo que podemos esperar de Jill en el futuro. Y nos comenta Jill que en el 2019 tiene planeado sacar un nuevo libro para adultos, que va un poco de una chica cuyo padre fallece y empieza a notar que hay ciertos secretos que el papá le tuvo guardados. Así que...
¿Le escondió?
Así que le escondió. Así que es un poco el trayecto de cómo se está dando cuenta de estas cosas, y que también dice Jill que hay 2 caballeros involucrados que pues también van a estar interactuando ahí con ella.
Así es que suena juicy. Okay, we also would like to know what shaped you as a reader. Which books were the stepping stones for you as a reader in the different stages of your life?
Yeah, so many books. I just love books. And I feel like I could give this answer on a different day and I would choose totally different books. But the one book that I just have loved since I was, I think, 10 or 11 years old, and I read it every summer until I graduated from college, is called A Tree Grows in Brooklyn by a woman named Betty Smith. And it basically tells the life story of this girl named Francie from the time she's born in Brooklyn until she is probably in her 20s or so, I think is where it ends. And I just loved how real the characters felt, and how, you know, I just felt like I was stepping into a friend's life and hearing about what was going on, and, you know, parents and siblings and all of that. So that's a book that I think I really looked to a lot. I also loved a book when I was a teenager called Queen of the Summer Stars by Persia Woolley, which is the story King Arthur, Queen Guinevere, Sir Lancelot story told from Guinevere's point of view. And recently I've been thinking, you know, when people have been asking me questions on the road when I've been touring, that I probably subconsciously used that as a little bit of a model of like Lucy, Darren, and Gabe sort of figuring out the different attractions of 2 different men for the same woman. So those are 2 books that I think really were very formative, and also kind of informed the way that I wrote The Light We Lost.
Okay, and a children's book?
Children's book. So my favorite book as a child was a book called Andrew Henry's Meadow by a woman named Doris Byrne. And it was about all of these kids who didn't feel appreciated by their families. So they went off to a meadow, and Andrew Henry built each of them their own houses, particularly for them. And they had this lovely time together doing all of the things that they always dreamed of doing. And then their families missed them and came and found them and brought them home. But I love that story so much. And I also was a really big fan of Harriet the Spy. And I think I just really loved the way that she was looking in on all of these other people's lives while she was still having her own experiences too. But that she got to sort of watch the stories of everyone else in her neighborhood. I think I always really was attracted to other people's stories and you know, hearing and seeing what was different about their lives and what was going on there.
Okay.
Bueno, pregunta Mitch que qué libros han sido los parteaguas para Jill para convertirse en una escritora. Y Jill nos comenta de 3 libros, 2 de adulto y 1 de niña. El primero fue A Tree Grows in Brooklyn, un árbol crece en Brooklyn, que cuenta la historia de una niña hasta los 20 años. El segundo, y que dicen que es el más importante, es el Queen of the Summer Stars, la reina de las estrellas de verano. No sé cómo está traducido en el título en español, pero que cuenta la historia del rey Arturo y de Genevieve desde el punto de vista de Genevieve, y que dice Gio que que la perspectiva y la creación del personaje de Lucy le dicen que está muy inspirada en la perspectiva de Genevieve en este libro. Y el tercer libro era Andrew
Henry's Meadow.
Andrew Henry's Meadow, que era sobre unos niños que escapan de sus casas y se van a un valle, y están pues un poco descubriendo el mundo y están ahí un tiempo hasta que sus papás los encuentran y los llevan de regreso a la realidad.
Y también Harriet the Spy, ¿no? Que es una niña que le encanta ver todo lo que está sucediendo en su barrio, y siempre le gustó mucho a Jill ver qué estaba pasando con otras personas. And Maria on our Facebook wants to know which book are you reading right now that you can recommend. María quiere saber qué libro estás leyendo actualmente o qué libros has leído recientemente que puedas recomendar.
So I recently read Sing Unburied Sing by Jessamine Ward, which was absolutely beautifully written about, it's sort of a bit of magical realism about a family in the South of the United States, and the generations of their family and the sort of slightly magical aspects to them. And I also recently read The Immortalists by Chloe Benjamin, which is about 4 siblings who find out when they're children from this fortune teller the day that they're supposed to die. And then the story talks about like what the rest of their lives were like and what effect that had on them. And you got to decide, you know, whether the fortune teller was real or not. They're both really great. I recommend them both highly.
Bueno, pregunta Mitch qué libros está leyendo en este momento la autora que podrá recomendar. Nos dice Gio sobre 2 libros. El primero, que no escuché muy bien el nombre, discúlpame.
Sing Unburied Sing.
Vale. Y el segundo, que era... se me ha ido el nombre.
The Immortalist.
The Immortalist, que es de 4 hermanos que un día van con una especie de gitana, un oráculo, que les dice exactamente el día en el que van a morir. Así que el libro trata sobre, desde el momento en el que están niños hasta que llega a esta fecha, cómo es que vivieron sus vidas y si es que sí van a morir en ese día.
Well, these are all the questions that we have. Jill, thank you very, very much for joining us in Maratón de Lectura to celebrate the International Book Day. And we'll be talking to you soon when the book comes out and with other questions from readers and
Fantastic.
Thank you.
Voy a practicar español y es posible la otra vez hablo en español también.
Para practicar, sí.
Voy a practicar mucho.
Okay. Thank you, Jill.
You're welcome.